The Emerald Tablet, Chapter 35. And as always, life must go on. Heidi, Iva, Gary, and Andy nearly fell out of their seats when Benjamin walked into homeroom Saturday morning. "What happened?" Heidi asked, jumping up. "I lost contact with you." "Yeah, and Jack couldn't find you either," Gary asked. "He tried to teleport to Shambhala, but couldn't." "We thought you might be dead," Iva added. Through the alliance bond, Benjamin felt the concern of his friends, his true friends. Feeling their thoughts made him happy, and a smile crept onto his face. Whatever lay ahead, he wasn't going to be alone. Heidi gave Benjamin her telepathy look. "You found the third key, didn't you?" she asked. "But where is it? Where are they?" "Are you reading my mind, Heidi?" But he wasn't angry. He was just trying to ignore the story Helios had told him, trying to block it out of his mind so she wouldn't be able to see it. He'd tell it when he was ready. He felt her touch his mind, but quickly back away, seemingly sensing his desire for privacy. Iva could hardly contain her excitement, which was saying a lot for Iva. "You found it? You got the third key? Are you sure? You really have all three of them now?" "Yes. Well, kind of," Benjamin replied. Benjamin looked over to the table where Ryan and Jonathan sat. They were staring open-eyed at him. "I think we should lower our voices," Benjamin thought. "So it was in Shambhala?" Iva asked. "Exactly," Benjamin replied. "And you actually teleported yourself there?" Andy asked. "Do you realize how cool that is?" "Pretty cool," Benjamin replied. "I mean, one minute I was sitting there thinking about it, and the next thing I knew I was there. Well, almost there. I still had to find the secret entrance." "Secret entrance?" Gary said. "And what do you mean you kind of have the keys?" Heidi asked. Benjamin explained about how he had been unable to remove the keys from the pedestal, how one of his brothers would have to be there also. "What brothers?" Andy asked. "Derek and Douglas?" "Not quite," Benjamin replied. Just then Proteus Ajax walked into the room and called the class to order. "I'll fill you guys in on everything after class, all right?" Benjamin said. "Yeah," Andy said. They walked to the front of the room and took their seats. With everything else which had happened, Benjamin found he really didn't care much about his ability test results. He'd been tested enough. But the grades turned out okay. To his credit, the first thing Proteus did was deliver them. There were no real surprises, and nobody flunked, not even Heidi or Gary in telekinesis. Of course, they only advanced 1 year, but both seemed thrilled with the results. "I knew I did well on my telekinesis exam," Gary said. "You did?" Andy asked. "Yeah, I had to move 1,000 pieces of paper, one at a time," Gary explained. "All you had to do was move paper for your exam?" Andy asked. "You deserve to flunk." Gary smiled as if he'd been complimented, causing Andy to shake his head with frustration. Nobody was surprised when Gary got placed in Year 4 Science, Iva in Year 4 Telegnosis, and Heidi in Year 4 Telepathy. Benjamin felt Andy's pride when he found out he'd move ahead to Year 4 Telekinesis, but it soon was replaced by jealousy when he found out Benjamin would be right there with him. Though he wasn't the best in everything, Benjamin couldn't help being pleased with his results. Level 3 for Science and Telepathy, Level 4 for Teleportation and Telekinesis. He couldn't have cared less about only moving to Level 2 for Telegnosis. "Are you any good at science?" Andy asked. "How come you moved to Year 3? "Well, I did heal 2 broken leg bones during the ability test," Benjamin answered. "Broken leg bones?" Heidi exclaimed. "What kind of test did you take? All I had to do was grow my hair red." She tossed her hair around, showing off her long red locks. She, too, had been placed in the Year 3 science class. "All you had to do was grow your hair?" Benjamin said, raising his voice. "Some old hag knitted away on a sweater while I lay in a pit in horrible pain, trying to heal my leg that got broken when I fell into the pit." "Well, if it makes you feel any better, I had to grow back my fingernail on my left pinky," Gary said. "No, actually that doesn't make me feel any better, Gary," Benjamin said. "My leg is still sore from the break." "Well, so is my fingernail," Gary said. "It's not fun having it pulled out, you know." "You had it pulled out?" Heidi asked. "Well, no, the grader actually teleported it out, but it still hurt," Gary confessed. With the results delivered, homeroom turned into chaos. Proteus cleared his throat multiple times, but it took him blackening the room before the students finally settled down. "Before I can dismiss you for the day, there are just a few basics to go over," Proteus began once everyone was quiet. Andy rolled his eyes. "What now?" Benjamin knew that Andy, like himself, was probably itching for homeroom to be done so they could enjoy the rest of their day. "When you arrive at summer school next year, you may or may not have me as a homeroom teacher," Proteus said. "You'll also be required to take one elective. This does not include an additional recreational activity. Use your sheaves, which you are free to take home, to review the electives and activities offered over the next year. And also a word of caution. Please practice over the year, but only practice in the privacy of your own homes. The fact that you are now old enough to know about Lemuria only makes it more important for you to always keep your abilities secret. With thinking about home and thinking about his family, Benjamin finally started to relax. He tried not to think about what Helios had told him. He had the whole year ahead to think about his parentage, to ask his parents about it. There would be plenty of time for that. Sunday morning came around quickly. Benjamin hurried to pack his bag, excited to see his parents, Derek and Douglas and little Becca. They had agreed to meet Iva and Heidi for breakfast before heading for the main atrium teleporters. Benjamin didn't eat much and noticed that his friends didn't either. Everyone was looking forward to going home. Yesterday, Benjamin had explained to Andy, Gary, Iva, and Heidi, and Jack, everything that had gone on during his trip to Shambhala. Andy couldn't believe Mr. Burton had turned out to be evil, trying to bring down the shields. "Are you sure it was really Mr. Burton?" Andy had asked. "Yeah, it was him," Benjamin replied. "He said he'd been watching me my whole life." "Sounds kind of creepy to me," Heidi said, shivering. "Yeah, it was," Benjamin agreed. He was still trying not to think too much about everything. He knew what had to be done. All he had to do to keep the shields from coming down around Lemuria and Atlantis was find his two brothers. Shouldn't be too hard, should it? But even he had a hard time believing himself. "So where do you think your brothers are?" Gary asked. "I don't know," Benjamin admitted. "You'd think I'd have some sort of idea or something." "Maybe you should focus on practicing your telegnostic powers over the next year," Iva suggested. "It might help you locate them." "Maybe," Benjamin said, "but how do I practice?" "Well, I'll see what I can do," Iva said. "We can talk on the telecom. Proteus did say we could use them." Benjamin noticed that Andy looked up at the mention of Iva talking to Benjamin, but didn't say a word. They finished eating and began the long walk toward the main atrium. Their bags had already been taken to the teleporters via the luggage terminals. "So maybe we can all get together over Christmas break or spring break or something?" Heidi suggested. "Yeah, that's a great idea," Gary said. "We should ask our parents right away so we can make plans." "Cool," Andy said. "We could try to meet here." They reached the main atrium and got into a line for one of the teleporters. "Well, I guess it's goodbye then," Benjamin said when it was his turn to depart. "Not really," Andy said, laughing, stepping back from the teleporter. Benjamin noticed that as Andy stepped away, he moved closer to Iva. "You know, you can call any time you want," Heidi said. "Yeah, let us know how you're doing," Gary agreed. "I'll be waiting to hear from you," Iva said. "And if I don't, you better have a pretty good reason for it." "Hurry, hurry, hurry," the teleporter operator said to Benjamin. "We don't have all day now, do we?" Benjamin turned to look at the man. It was the same old man with the supersized ears who'd greeted him when he first arrived in Lemuria 8 weeks earlier. A lot had happened since then. Benjamin felt older, more responsible. "Oh, sorry," Benjamin said. I'm not trying to hold up the line. I'm just saying goodbye." "Goodbye?" the man said. "But you'll be seeing your friends in no time at all." "In no time at all?" Benjamin said. "I may not see them until next summer. That's 44 weeks away." "Sonny, when you get to be my age, 44 weeks is no time," the man said. Benjamin stepped up onto the teleporter pad. His suitcase arrived just as he did. He reached down, picked it up, then turned back and smiled. He waved a final goodbye just as the teleporter operator punched in the code for his home. Whatever lay ahead, Benjamin wasn't sure, but there was one thing he did feel sure about. He would have friends by his side, friends who would support him and help him, friends who would be there for him. Summer school may not have been what Benjamin had planned for the summer, but now, with all that had happened, he could hardly wait until next year.